But I was, is it going?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. All
right, well, we can start here. Yeah, it works, man.
Just cut it out.
All right, well, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks.
So, here, Podcast for the People, episode number 5 with Coach Ty Fisher. And jumping right into the conversation here, we were just talking about, fitness programming and percentages and how do we sort of program for people and that sort of thing. And one of the things that Ty was mentioning was RPE, and I'll let him explain this a little bit. And as a way of measuring, essentially what intensity you're ready for that day, right? So what's RPE stand for again?
Rate of perceived exertion.
Rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
So explain it as like programming goes.
Okay, so I think there's a couple of different ways. I think the technically correct scale of RPE goes from, it doesn't go to 10, it goes past 10. I think it goes up to like 20 or something like that. But that's just kind of ridiculous. That's just academic people trying to be fancy. Just use a 0 to 10 scale. Most people get that, right? So I just use a 0 to 10 scale for RPE. If it's not hard at all, it's 0. If it's your max effort, it's a 10.
Yeah.
So what we were talking about with programming, you were talking about percentages. And I was saying sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use RPE instead. And for example, you could take a workout that's, let's say 3x5 back squats or 5x5 back squats or whatever. If you're doing that on Monday, the first week, I might tell you, try to do it at an RPE of about 7 to 8, right? So you're going to do all 3 or 5 sets at what feels like about a 7 or 8 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. And then next week, I'll tell you, okay, now same reps, same sets, but do it at an RPE of about 8 or 9, right? Mm-hmm. So the caveat with that was people have to be somewhat experienced. They have to be pretty experienced, actually, to actually understand what a 7 feels like as opposed to a 10. Because a lot of times beginners might feel like everything's a 10.
Yeah.
When really you can tell that they have a lot more in the tank, but they just don't know what that feels like, right?
Right. Certain body awareness.
Or just like a 7, you might say, okay, I want you to do this at a 7, but they take it to an 11. They fail or something like that, right? So the person has to understand.
And then they're looking at you like, was that a 7?
Yeah, like, no. We're supposed to go up to an 8 next week, and there's no room to go up.
There's no room for that 8.
Yeah.
So. I think what's cool about that too, and I was actually having this conversation with somebody earlier in the week, was and why I like the RPE is like, what's your perceived exertion level for that day? Also, you know what I mean? So one of the things is like, we'll have a 1 rep max of 100-pound deadlift, we'll just say, and someone will compare that and they say they hit that on their best day, but then they're coming in 3 weeks later and we're deadlifting again and they're struggling to hit 90 pounds or 85 pounds, something like that. But every day is different. There's all kinds of outside factors. So if you can go off a scale that essentially measures you for that day's quality, that's a pretty good way to go about it. Because not every day is going to be your best day. So like, you might have your overall 100% level and that's like the best you've ever done ever, but your 100% for any random Tuesday, we'll say, might actually be 80% of what that overall 100% is. So that's a good way to look at it too. I like the RP. I
like that as well. Like when I'll write, you see it with Olympic programs a lot, but with powerlifting too, it'll say work up to a heavy single. That doesn't mean a PR. That just means what feels heavy today. And, as you gain experience and you have years of training to look back on, I could tell you off the top of my head, like where what range I want to be in, right? I might not hit my PR, but as long as I come within, 20 to 30 pounds of it, that's pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
And I'll be happy with that. Now, if it says on the sheet, work up to a PR, well then hopefully there's been months of training behind that periodize it and let you peak for that day.
That's where I struggle with percentages.
I know
in programming. That's a big thing.
Well, RPE is kind of like percentages too. It's that, like you said, the difference is it could be more daily instead of based off an absolute number.
I think the other side of it is like, what does that do to you mentally if you don't hit your percentage that day?
Yeah, I mean, I hate that when that happens.
It like ruins my fucking day.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
That's why I don't use them for I almost never.
Yeah.
Actually, I will say I never use percentages when I'm programming for
yourself.
Myself.
Yeah.
But some people really like to have those numbers to go off of. It helps them. And I'll do it, but I'll give them a range too.
Yeah.
I'll say I want this, hit 3 sets between 75 to 80%.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it too.
Just to give them that range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely good, or I would say more beneficial for someone who's like having trouble with that perception scale, who doesn't have the body awareness just yet, and it's easier for you to tell them what to do.
Definitely.
Because then they can just, 70%. And people like the numbers and stuff. I find myself in too much of an ebb and flow with like motivation and good days and bad days, and say I didn't sleep very good one night or anything like that, that I know for me, like, I'm too much of a head case.
Yeah.
I get thrown off.
So with beginners, this comes like right out of a book called Practical Programming. So I didn't make this up or anything. So no credit due, but no credit due to me. But
relay it.
So with beginners, and then the RPE is kind of a build on this. Beginners, you take it just linear periodization, which is you just work up, for example, 3 sets of 5 at the same weight. So you do 3 sets of 5, all 3 sets are at 135. Say you're doing back squats, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what you did on Monday. And then if you're coming back next week, the only goal in terms of periodization here is to do more weight. Like there's no percentage increase, there's no RPE increase, it's just do more weight.
Do more than what
that's
you did
the only goal.
Week.
So you might have done 135 this week. Next week you do 140 if it was really tough, so you're going up small, or you might do 145 if you feel good. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to make too big of jumps, but you could take 5, 10, maybe 15 pounds in the beginning for your jumps. So that's just, you do that until you can't anymore, right? So if you're a true beginner, somebody who's never lifted a weight before, you might be able to do that for 6 months, honestly.
True.
You might be able to go...
Wendler kind of touches on that. The Wendler program, where he says it's like every 4 weeks, every 4th week is a deload week.
Yes.
And then you add 5 pounds to whatever you're getting your percentage off of, and you just keep rolling like that.
Yeah, the only difference with this is there's no deload week.
There's
I mean, you could do whatever you want with your programming,
take your rest days and whatnot,
but just the example from this book, there's no deload weeks, and you just keep going until you can't, and then there's like ways you can change it. But then adding that RPE to it, which is not from the book, so that's just something I got from Juggernaut.
Writing a new book here.
Juggernaut Training Systems. They use RPE, and I just heard them talk about this a few weeks ago. But you can add the RPE to it, and you can change reps, do whatever you want. But the RPE just gives them a little bit more insight into what they're feeling. So if I'm telling you to go at a 7, now you really have to think of what is a 7, right? And then you have to learn that. And then as you're increasing, you may go to a point where you do just the one first set at your RPE of, let's say you're at week 3, so now it's RPE of 9. You may just do one set there and then back off for the next 2 sets, something like that.
Interesting. There's so many different ways to do this.
There's so many. But the point is, though, you want to... even though we talked about RPE being the daily thing and it could fluctuate from week to week, day to day, when I write my programs, I want it still to be increasing from week to week.
Right.
So if that person does know their body and they do know roughly what a 7 is, even if they're having a shitty day next week, they can probably still do an 8. They can still do more than what they did.
Yeah.
Because if that was a true 7, even if they're having a shitty day, they can still do a little more than a 7.
Little more.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to have a problem with it when you get towards 10.
Right.
That 10 is going to fluctuate a lot.
Yeah. I think one of the no, I totally agree. I think one thing that gets me too, and maybe this wraps into it, is sometimes, say I'm having that day where it's like a crappy day and I'm not lifting the weight like I thought I was going to. What's the movement that I'm doing? Like if I'm trying to Olympic lift where it's a really coordinated movement, if my central nervous system is fried from a day before, you got no shot. But like something like a deadlift, like you're just, essentially you're just picking something up, doesn't really require a lot of coordination per se. So that's like the exercise might play a factor in that also.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because the explosiveness necessary for those Olympic lifts, like that speed quality can go. If you're fried, you'll be a little slower, and just a little slower on an Olympic lift, a max lift.
Good night.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that goes into, that's something that actually I remember, I guess it was when you were working over at Villanova, you were talking about low intensity and high intensity training days.
Yeah, they did high low days when I was there.
Yeah, and that's something, ever since you told me about that, I've kind of had that thought in the back of my head as far as, and we were actually, again, I was just picking Ty's brain about how I want to, like, take my gym and just, like, trying to make things better or whatever, and getting high intensity days and low intensity days, and recognizing that it's okay for a low intensity day to come away from it not feeling smacked up. You know what I mean? Not feeling beat up, because that's kind of the point.
That is the point.
The idea of, like, get to the gym and kick my ass every day of the week is not successful, I think.
100%.
Yeah. I'm a big rest day advocate.
Anybody who's trained this style, whether it's CrossFit or just something similar, anybody who's done that for, let's say, more than a year, or maybe in a year you're still kind of in the honeymoon phase. But,
sure, yeah.
But let's say you've done it for a couple years, and there's tons of people out there who have done it for more than 2 years. So if you've done it for that long, and if you're honest with yourself, and you have been going into the gym and crushing yourself every single day, and you admit that, and you'll also be honest with yourself and look at the progress you've made, let's say over the last 9 months, you'd be probably pretty similar. I probably didn't make a whole ton of progress if you were really crushing yourself.
Sure.
So those rest days are super important.
Rest days are important. Let's get out of, how does that carry into, like, everyday life? Just not talking about fitness. How does that, like, say you have, say you're the working, like, single parent who's running 3 jobs, because you got to feed your kids, like, the stress level on that person is so high because they're just running nonstop. They need a rest day, essentially.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just that accumulated stress from all areas of life. Yep. You can only handle so much.
Right. What do you do to get rid of that? What's the outlet? Like, some people will work out, and just, like, not talking about the gym anymore, like, what's your, like, life rest day?
My life rest day? Okay, yeah. Usually it's Sundays is just an easy day to go with.
Yeah.
But honestly, for me, I don't know. My mind can go in every direction. I think everything is, like, interesting.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, like, what are you most interested in? I'm like, I don't know. I'm interested in everything.
I like a lot of shit, man.
Yeah. But whatever. So usually on Sundays or something, wherever my mind takes me, I like to just, honestly, I'll say I'm just going to do nothing, right? Like, I'm doing nothing today.
Yeah.
And then that turns into me, going down some rabbit hole on YouTube about something, right?
Yeah.
But it's just something
watching
that's
people
not,
fall.
Yeah. Or it's just something that's not going to stress you out any further. So for me, like, we go on, past few weeks, we've been doing, like, some running on Sundays, but, like, at a park, so we're like out in nature and stuff, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool. Because
that's such an easy thing to do, just go out, even for a walk, even, right? Like, I would love to just do that.
Yeah.
Just go out and be outside, because, you'll wake up Sunday morning, you go, what am I going to do today? And then before you close your eyes, like, you blink, and it's like 7 o'clock at night, and you're like, I didn't do anything today.
I didn't do anything today.
So it's so easy to just go out for, like, a walk or a run. I like doing stuff like that.
That's
I'll
a
read
good way to do it.
books sometimes.
Yeah, I'll have some days where, honestly, I'll be on the couch for, like, 6-7 hours a day.
No, it's not good.
Leave the couch.
Right?
It's not good.
But
it's almost
sometimes,
to the
like,
point
how
where it's
stressed out are you, though?
counterproductive.
But how stressed out are you? Sometimes you might need that, right?
You just need to shut down.
Now, if we're being honest, we probably don't need it as often as we do it. But sometimes you actually might need that.
That's true.
Right?
Sometimes you do need that.
You just need to shut down.
You just need to get away from stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, so how do you, obviously you want to avoid that, like, that 24-hour solitude, revamping or rest period. That that comes back to, I think, then, what can you do in your everyday life that promotes longevity in, just in your work or in your workouts or just like in life stresses in general. What are you doing or what do you have going on in your life that is going to tax you? What energy drainers do you have and what energy promoters do you have going on? And how do you manage all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to what I just said about, I think, at least personally, is going out into nature and when I say out into nature, I literally just mean outside, right? Like you could be living in a neighborhood or in a city or whatever, just get outside, right? It doesn't have to be like going on a trek through the mountains or something.
Yeah, but which would be cool.
If you can get outside for, even if it's only 15 minutes, right? For me anyways, I love that.
Yeah. I think that's something that people may not even actually know themselves enough to know, like, or maybe that's, I don't know, maybe this is far-fetched, but maybe it's something where if we're so wrapped up in all the things around us, how do you know when you need that break, or how do you know when you're pushing too hard, or when you're you're not, you need to get more motivated, and you need to get more ambitious towards what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I think I can feel pretty well when I'm getting, like when the stresses of life are building on me. I think I can feel that pretty well. And it's almost like a claustrophobic feeling. You're like staring. You've been staring at the computer for 6 hours, trying to do work or something like that, and you just, I don't know. I get like a sense of like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
So if I can just stand up at that moment
and get outside,
even for 5 minutes,
breaking
whatever
patterns.
it is, just to get into that different pattern.
Yeah, because I find too, I'll have days where like if I'm, I got to get all this shit done, I got to get this work done, I got to type this article, I got to do this or that, and like, you can't force creativity.
No, you can't.
Or like it's really hard to write a exercise program, like if you're not in the right mindset for it, and you're just like, like I don't feel like writing this today or whatever, and so, like you just need a break, you know what I mean? But when I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I like,
it flows.
I crush it.
It flows,
I crush it.
You're in the zone.
Yeah, you're in the zone. So I think, it's how do you find that balance of, because not every day is going to be a great work day.
No.
So you almost have to be, it takes a certain amount of intuition, I think a certain amount of, like we were saying earlier, body awareness to understand, what's your position in life, or where are you at today? Where are you at right now, mentally, physically, emotionally, and what's going to give you the most bang for your buck, essentially, just in that day in general.
That's a good way to look at it. I don't do this, but I've heard this, because first off, I'm going to go on the record right now and tell you that I could be probably 10 times more productive than I actually am, right? So I don't feel by any means. We were talking about the gym earlier, and I felt somewhat comfortable with that. This, I'm like, oh shit, I should be more productive. I should be better. But anyways, what I've heard is people will do, I think the book is actually called The One Thing, and it's a book I was given and never read. But I think this is what that book's about. I'm going to summarize a book that I've never read.
Yeah, do it, bro. Summarize a book that I never read.
And if it's not in that book, I've at least heard it from other people on different podcasts or whatever.
Just like fact-checked it here.
Yeah, anyways, forget it. But the concept is, I've heard different people say that they do this. They'll just come up with one thing, the most important thing for that day. So what is it that you need to get done today, where if you didn't get anything else done, you would still feel like you got, some good shit done.
Accomplished.
You still feel accomplished. So, and if you're, the thing is that I feel like we live in a very busy world, but busy doesn't mean important, right? It doesn't mean we're doing significant things. It's just we're doing things.
Yeah.
Actually, this is from another book which I have read.
There you go.
It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Yeah,
that's a very famous
book.
People.
Yeah.
Very famous book.
Yep.
He talks about things that are important versus things that are urgent. And there's like 4 categories. They could be important and urgent and blah, 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 blah. Any iteration of that.
Yeah.
Most of what we do falls into the not important category, but it might still be urgent, right? it's urgent because it needs to get done because your boss said he needs you to make these copies or something for whatever. But like it really wasn't that important. Right.
But we put so much emphasis on stuff like that.
So if you can write your list out of everything that you've done and scratch out everything except for what falls into that important category, then you can start your day by trying to go after those things. And then even if you don't get the other stuff done, like whatever.
It's all good.
The urgent stuff by definition, you just have to do because it's urgent, right? Like, you know, but
that's a good way to look at it.
But a lot of shit falls into the non-important category.
Yeah.
The non-important, not urgent.
What's important, what's not important.
Yeah. So if you know what you got to get done today and you can come up with that one thing, that sounds like a great strategy to me.
Yeah.
Again, haven't tried it actually though.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a great way to go about it.
I'll run through that in my mind too. Like, you know, sometimes I'll have a day where I'm doing stuff and I like load my list up and I'm like, all right, you know, I'm gonna, like, this was actually a thought that I had yesterday. I was like, you know, I have the website. I'm gonna build an entire store on the website today. I'm gonna do it today.
Yes.
And I went and researched, like, you know, drop shipping and online stores and all this stuff for like an hour yesterday. Didn't do anything towards the website just yet. And then I was also on my list, I was like, you know, I'm gonna do yoga today, and then I'm gonna journal, I'm gonna meditate. I'll probably get a little workout in, maybe go for a run. Like, my list just kept building and building and building.
You're not gonna get that shit
I didn't dude, I got none of that shit done. Yeah, I coached class at the gym, and you know, I think I did. Yeah, like I said, I did research on the computer for like a little bit. Like, how, you know,
research though, like that's important,
it counts.
Right?
It counts a little bit, but the point is like, you know, all that stuff just wasn't achievable in my day.
No.
But if I chose just one thing and didn't feel like I had to spread all my time out throughout the day, then one of those things definitely became more achievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So setting like reasonable expectations on it as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a big deal too. And that's something that I run into in the gym all the time too is, you know, and actually I'll take this into like a whole life scenario rather than just being in the gym. Like, we'll have these goals in 6 month, your 1 year goal, and we're always in like goal setting sessions and stuff, you know, your 1 year goal is you want people to laugh at you when you tell them what it is because it's that crazy, you know. But we'll stay so focused on that 1 year goal, and it kind of becomes counterproductive in a way of like, you know, this is that 1 year goal, but I'm still back here, you know, not really putting emphasis on the small daily goals to get you to that incredibly overwhelming 1 year goal, you know. And then that 1 year goal that you're kind of putting so far into the distance, that's this amazing thing, but you're so emphasized on that, you're less emphasized on the daily things. That 1 year goal just seems to get further and further away because you're kind of putting yourself in a negative feedback loop with it, you know. So I think putting emphasis on, like you're saying, on one thing a day that's going to make, you know, what can you do today that's 20%? What is it? 20% today to make 80% of the difference, or something along those lines.
The 80-20 rule is essentially 20% of what you do produces 80% of the results.
Right.
Essentially.
Right. So putting emphasis on your, you know, what you're doing right now, as it pertains to that lofty 1 year goal or 2 year goal or 5 year goal, create the positive feedback loop now, rather than getting stuck. Because I'll do that too. You know, I think like 2 years ago, for example, I was like, this was even a year ago. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty decent at Olympic weightlifting. I think I'm going to go to the Olympics. I think I'm going to start training really hard at this. And I trained really hard for like 3 months and I got better. But then I was like, the Olympics aren't for like 4 years.
Yeah.
I'll just, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. But like, I was taking the steps, but then I was like,
I let that
overwhelming goal.
You were trying to get there in 3 months.
In 3 months, yeah. I was like, shit. Well, you know, yeah. So the patience of it, like, it turned into a negative feedback for me.
Well, like, I don't want to put this on anybody else. I'll just speak for myself. If I did one thing every day that was truly important, like truly, not just, you know, we're going to justify it and make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
But like, if I truly did one thing every day that was important, just imagine how far I would get in a year, right? Like,
yeah,
you would accomplish
That's a lot.
so much.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be honest and say that I probably, on on an average day, even on a busy day, probably none of that shit was important, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, probably. Yeah. I'm just trying to be real here.
Yeah.
And what is it, kind of going back to your idea of setting those goals, I think Tony Robbins says it. He says that most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10, right? So if you can have that patience.
Yeah, patience is a big thing.
I mean, I truly believe that you could literally do anything in 10 years. Literally.
Totally.
But in a year, though, again, you might not be giving yourself enough time there. But 10-year goal, you can do anything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You could definitely be at the Olympics.
24? 20, right? 24?
Well, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I'll be a little better.
In 10 years, that won't be good. But.
Yeah. But, no, man, I think that's it. I think it's hard to sift through, what you place the most value on.
Very difficult.
And I'm going to carry this into, like, just society as everybody else has things, in my opinion, everybody around you has things that they tell you should be putting value on, but not all of that really aligns with what you feel the value in your life should be put on. As in, just look at any advertisement or marketing thing anywhere. How many, I forget what the statistic is, and I'll look it up. I think it's like every 10 seconds we get hit with a new advertisement, or we come across something like, driving, you see a new advertisement sign. Anytime you drive down the street, you're driving by all these businesses that are throwing things in your face, like, this is what you need, or this is what you believe in. Or social media is freaking huge, man. Yeah. And, excluding the fact that we're doing that right now as, being on a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's
like
just
like even when you go on your Facebook on your phone or Instagram or whatever, even if it's not from a business, even if it's from friends' posts or whatever, like, people say it all the time, social media is just the highlight reel of somebody's life. Yeah. Very few people post the negative on social media.
How do you sift through all that and realize, how do you take everything with a grain of salt? How do you essentially say, like, okay, this is what's out there, but, I value this in my own life?
Self-awareness. That's what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about all the time. He talks about self-awareness as being, like, the most important thing, because when you can truly know yourself, like you're asking, right? Then you can filter all the rest of that out. And it's tough to get to that point. I don't know that there's any special way to become self-aware. I think I'm actually, like, on that journey myself, right? Like,
you're a pretty self-aware guy, I would say.
Yeah, but I would say that I'm not fully there yet. Honestly, like, I couldn't tell you right now, like, what I would love to be doing, not for the rest of my life, but let's say for the next 5 years. Like, I couldn't even tell you that right now. So in that sense, I'm not self-aware. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
Like, what, I think the rest of your life scenario is kind of far-fetched. Most people don't do one thing their entire life.
Yeah.
But, 5 years.
Like, you need a job for the next 40 years and then you retire.
Yeah. Like, so in that sense, I wouldn't say I'm self-aware. But maybe in other senses I am. But I think the only way to become self-aware is just through experience.
Trial and error.
Just experience.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
It does.
And if you weren't paying attention to if you're young and you weren't paying attention to the first 15 years of your life, okay, that's fine. You're 15. No big deal.
Yeah.
But start paying attention.
Yeah.
Right. If you're 40 and you haven't paid attention, okay, again, fine. But start paying attention. So I'm just trying to pay attention right now. That's all.
That's a good way to put it.
And hopefully in time.
You're just researching right now.
Hopefully in time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 25. We're in that real sweet spot of, like, dude, I could do anything.
Could.
Do anything you want.
Could, yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I mean, in all reality, you can do whatever you want.
Whenever you want.
At pretty much any time. As soon as you're 18.
But the reality of life has realities. Like, if you are 35 or 40, married with kids, and you got this job that you're, whatever.
You can't just throw down and move to Hawaii.
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe you could, but that's not practical for a lot of, for 99% of the population. That's just not practical.
So at what point do you think that decision sort of comes in where you're like, this is what I'm going to commit to for a long time? as in, and I think, like you said, using the example of like getting married or starting a family, I guess that's where people would start to talk about, once you've met the right person, like, you're down with that life. You're down with that life for that person, and what you envision that life is looking like. Is it just when you know kind of thing?
It might be. I don't know. Actually, this is kind of slightly off topic, but you just mentioned, like, meeting somebody and marrying them. I was just listening to this podcast about relationships the other day. And they threw a little caveat into that. It was a lot of times when you meet somebody and you're like, oh yeah, this is the one. You come up with, like you just said, how you envision the rest of your life is going to be with that person, right? Sometimes that can be a little bit of a hindrance because you're not just viewing yourself with that person, but you're viewing yourself as how you're going to be with that person.
What the whole situation
you're envisioning the house, the location, the jobs, and all that. Yeah. When really you should probably just say, we're going to be together, and then wherever we go. That's fine. But we're going to be together. Right? Yeah. So, I don't know. That was a little off topic. No,
but I think that's all that kind of comes into like a comfortability or having a certain comfort level or a certain investment or willingness to invest in whatever it is that you're doing.
Well, yeah, you could apply that same concept to yourself, like you're saying, right? Like you're going to pursue this path, right? But this path might not be in this city, in this state. It might not be with this group of people. It might not look exactly like what you thought. Yeah. But, overall, like,
what's the underlying mission?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I always think. People come up with mission statements a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, mission statements, I understand, are supposed to be like very specific and hit like really valuable things that you hold on to. For me, I keep it pretty broad, and I think I do that with that in the back of my head. It's just to help the most amount of people for as long as I can, and that's it.
Yeah.
As best I can for as long as I can.
Simple.
And however that help comes about, could be anything.
Yeah, sometimes even like, I think I've seen a few from like big corporations that are like, worldwide dominant in what they do.
Their mission statements?
Yeah, and I've seen like one or two of them, and even then, some of those are very broad, right?
Yeah.
Like you would have thought like you'd be able to come up with what their mission statement was because you know what they do so well. But even some of those are just broad too. I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, just to come up with the underlying values and the underlying, I guess, sense of purpose, but the actual how, that's going to change.
That always changes.
That's going to change, yeah.
I'll talk to people now who are in their 40s, 50s, and they're like, man, I still don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring this shit out, man.
Totally, absolutely.
I think, the how is the trouble. It's hard to apply. I guess what I'm looking for is people in what they do on a daily basis have certain feedbacks or certain returns on what that is. Like if you're going to your job and you hate your job, say it's something that you don't want to do but you're doing because like the reality of life is that you have a family to provide for and blah blah blah. How do you continue to go to that job that you don't like and still be happy or still enjoy what you're doing or still apply that to what your underlying mission for your life is?
Well, I think there's two things you can do there. One, you can't just up and leave, right? Like you said, you got responsibilities.
Right.
So,
because people will do that. People will stay at jobs, that they're not necessarily stoked about.
Well, you might not even.
But there's other things.
You might not even realize that, like, you might just have an overall sense of, I don't know, call it depression for lack of a better term, but you might not even realize that it's just simply because you hate your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might not even be aware of that. You might just think like, wow, I don't know, this is just how things are, right?
Yeah.
But if you were able to come to a point where you're like, wow, I just hate this job, and like if I could just change that, then maybe I would have a chance at coming up with something else that'll make me happier.
Right.
But in the meantime, what you got to do, I think, two approaches are: one, you have to try to change your perspective on your job, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to leave tomorrow, so you're going to be there for a while. So
Right.
you have to try to change your perspective. I've heard a couple different ways you could do that. I mean, first, you can just be thankful you have a job, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
at least you're paying the bills.
Right.
And then you can just try to think, okay, well, how does my job actually help somebody? At least for me, that's what would do it, right?
Yeah.
So even if I hate that I gotta write this, report on
Like
whatever,
financial report or something blank.
or maybe if you have, I think it's easier if you have like something where you work with customers.
Yeah.
Because then you can like help them out on their day,
Yeah.
right? Again, so you might be working with shitty customers sometimes.
Yeah, well, anybody who's worked in a restaurant knows.
Right, that's exactly what was going through my mind.
Great,
that's
man.
exactly what was going through my mind.
Yeah.
But, maybe you can work in that restaurant and give a family like a great experience when they come in for dinner. And, maybe you still hate that job, but you can get something out of that, right? So in the meantime, you got to try to change your perspective.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you need to start chipping away at that next thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know what it is, you need to just start spending 20 minutes a day thinking about what it might
journal
be.
and figure it out or something like that. Yeah.
Once you do know what it is, then you got to start tiny steps, but you got to just take a step every day.
Yeah.
Or every week, let's call it. You set a goal like, all right, this week I'm gonna just start thinking about it, and then after a couple of weeks or a couple months even, it might take for you to just figure out what it is. And then you're like, okay, well now what are the steps? What do I got to do to get there? How can I break them down?
Yeah.
And let's just get moving.
And that goes back to what we were saying about being patient in the game of, setting long-term goals can be applied.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, the one thing that popped in my head when you were just talking about is, what are you accomplishing by going to this job that you don't like or doing whatever it is that you don't like, and if it is your family, well, you're taking care of your family. So that's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's a good purpose right there.
It's funny because the other thing that hit me is like, if you were to ask me this question, even I would say like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I'd say, well, just fucking quit, dude. Go do something else.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it, go do something else. You know what I mean? But the more I'm like learning, there's got to be, I'm placing more emphasis or less emphasis on like we'll just go do something else. You know what I mean? Just like simple solution and, taking into account like what are the actual real factors that
you got
matter.
To be practical. Like practicality is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
I have a bit of a dreamer's mentality.
Me too, bro.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Because, anything's possible in 10 years. I'll be fucking flying in 10 years, dude. But, that practicality and that reality check is a good thing every now and then. I think Definitely. It's a really good thing.
When you're talking about providing for your family, be practical.
Do it, dude.
Be practical.
Don't piss your money away on some investment or a bad investment or whatever it is. But I think there's a way to marry both of those.
There is,
right?
100% there is.
Yeah.
And it's like you could maybe envision this, hypothetical scenario of somebody who does hate their job, but they try to come up with change their perception and come up with ways to find purpose in it, right? Like we were saying. And then they start chipping away at that other thing. Maybe they spend 1 hour a night just researching or, coming up with ideas, brainstorming, or actually putting into action some of the steps. And in a year, most likely, if you've been doing that for the entire year consistently, you could very easily be in a position to then quit your job and pursue this new thing.
Very true.
Depending on what that new thing is, it might take longer, right? It might take 2 years or something like that. Or if it's not that crazy, it might only take a month, right? But the point is, you got to get on it.
Yeah.
I think you got to try to do both.
Yeah.
To marry them together, you got to be practical.
Yeah.
And then use some ideas and some tools to try to become grateful and find purpose in what you're doing, even if you hate it.
Right.
And then you got to just be responsible with your free time, because we all have free time. We like to say we don't. We do.
You have 15 minutes.
Like
10 minutes.
If you hate your life, you hate your job, and you mean it when you say it, like you fucking hate it.
Yeah.
then you just got to take one less hour of sleep and use that hour to work on that thing. If you're telling me you don't have time, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're already only sleeping 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
If you really hate it, then you're only sleeping 5 hours now, and you're using that extra hour to get shit done.
Right.
Or you can just go, be in the same spot in 2 years.
And then be done.
Which is, it's a lot harder to do than it is to say.
Yeah,
it's really easy to say.
It's a really easy thing. Yeah,
that's simple. It's very simple to say. Yeah, it's not very easy to do. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying I could do it like that, but just talking out loud, like that's what you got to do, right?
You got to, it's not easy, but you look at things as like, the one thing that popped in my head is like, this job that I don't like is just a means to an end, and I'm going to go there because this is going to set me up to be able to.
And that's okay.
Slowly
that's
chip
fine.
away, and that's totally cool. That's a good way to put that into a good place and make it useful towards your ultimate goal. But also, like you said, dude, it's definitely, this type of shit, man, is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's so hard.
Very hard.
We're creatures of habit, dude. It's so easy to just go. It's so easy to go a full year and like look back on the last year and say, wow, I'm pretty much the same as I was a year ago. Like everything is pretty much the same. I didn't really accomplish anything major.
One thing that I heard.
That's easy to do.
One thing that I heard that stuck with me was a life coach. She said, don't start anything on a Monday. Okay. Don't start on a Monday.
I like that.
Because when it's right now, today is Friday. If I'm like, all right, I'm going to start running, but I'm going to start on Monday. Monday's going to come, and I am not going to fucking run, dude. I'm not going to do it. Running. No way. Do not start something on a Monday. As soon as you have the urge or you have the inkling to do something,
do it.
Even just a little bit. You know what I mean? I want to become a lawyer, so I'm going to go onto YouTube or I'm going to go on the internet or something, and I'm going to just research. What does it take to become a lawyer?
Yeah, or just like watch a video of somebody doing their lawyer thing.
Put it out there. Even if it's a quick 2-minute video, put something out towards it.
Get momentum going. Yeah. You need momentum.
Don't wait. Don't start running tomorrow because as well
motivation will go away.
It's not going to happen tomorrow.
You'll be sitting there watching your Netflix show.
And
you'll be like,
just one more.
Yeah,
one more.
Maybe next week.
Well, it's starting. I kind of sorted it. Yeah, that kind of shit, man. I think that's a big component to a lot of people might miss out on.
I love the concept of that. I do. I think I'm pretty good with like saying I'm going to start on Monday and actually doing it. Can't really recall a time I've not followed through on that, but I love that concept. It makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you know what? In hindsight, I think that's what I do. Like when I commit to doing something, like what you just said, I might say I'll start on Monday. But really, I start doing research, probably immediately.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is.
I think that's a way that we can use social media and all these tools that we have, the internet and stuff, in a positive effect, too.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Why not? Take advantage of that kind of stuff. I think, it's funny. It reminds me, what's the Eminem line? I know you probably know it, where he's like, it's something like, I'm a bully because I make myself do what I don't want to do, something like that. I forget what the song is, but he basically is saying that he can I'm a bully because I make myself do.
Oh, I do know what you're saying. I can't think of the song off the top of my head.
It's something like that, but I love that.
But I know exactly what you're saying.
Because it's like, man, like even if it's something that, you have this long haul journey that you're going on, you're not going to necessarily enjoy everything about it, but like, make yourself do even the things that you don't necessarily want to do, because it's part of the learning experience and it's part of the overall journey that will prepare you to be ready for what that ultimate goal is. I think that's something that's important too, is when you have this ultimate goal, like I'm not ready right now to, we'll just use the example of like lifting in the Olympics. I'm not ready for that. It's the journey that prepares you to achieve that ultimate goal. So putting so much emphasis on that end goal too, like you're not ready for that right now. You know what I mean? You're not ready for what you want to do in 10 years because you have to have 10 years to get ready to do that. Yeah,
it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So patience. I think patience, that's kind of what I was coming around to, is patience is one of the biggest things that I think we forget about.
Yeah.
Because everything happens so fast today's world. Everything is so fast. that it's like, you know, like you said, like on social media, I'll scroll through and I'm like, damn, everybody's having so much fun.
It's a highlight reel.
Everybody's having so much fun, and
I know.
I'm just like a nerd on my phone, like scrolling through, like, why aren't I out having fun? Sometimes taking pictures of my shoes and stuff.
Sometimes though, what I'll do, it's funny. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll look at this picture, right, and I'll be like, man, that person's having so much fun. But then I'll say, wait a second, who took this picture? Wait a second, look at this caption. Look how long this caption is. Like, it looks like that's an action shot, that this fleeting moment, right? And that thing was staged so hard. They took like a half hour to write that post just to make it look like what it is.
That
right?
post has been in the making for hours.
It is genuinely, I've said it already, it's genuinely a highlight reel.
It is a highlight reel. I love that.
It's rare
Such
that people. It's rare that people put like negative stuff. You know, some people do.
That's
but
true.
Like, it's rare that people put negative stuff about their own life out there, like for real, and say, look, hey, not everything's rainbows and, you know, sunshine. So you gotta keep that in mind. Funny. But I mean, I fall victim to it too. Like I'll look and I'll be like, man, why didn't I do what they did? Yeah. Why didn't I go down that path? They look like they're having so much more fun.
Damn, I wish I took a picture of my breakfast this morning. Oh, damn it. A really good bowl of cereal. But
everybody, nobody's got it figured out based on that.
I watched this really funny video, and it was kind of like set up like that show Intervention, and it had like guys, you know, on the camera, and the guy has like a real somber look on his face, and he's like, hi, you know, I'm Dave, and I'm an Instagram husband. And it's all about, it just goes through this like reel of like the life of an Instagram husband, where like, you know, he's taking 80 pictures of his girlfriend, like running by this like, you know, like brick wall or something, and she's doing it 10 times just to like for that one picture, you know. And then it shows another where they're like walking across like
But see, that's what I think about. I do think about that stuff. I'm like, how long did this take?
Yeah, they're on a crosswalk and they're like, all right, take a picture of our feet, and then like, oh, I like this brick over here. No, this one over here. No, get this leaf in there. And it's like you have 80 pictures of like one moment. Like, dude, I don't know, man. But it's these guys just like taking pictures of their wives.
Like, it's cool, whatever. I don't hate that. Funny. I don't hate that people do that by any means. Yeah. But you just got to realize it's not necessarily the whole truth, right?
Yeah. I think it's
most of the time, anyways.
It's a highlight reel. I think that's a good way to put it, because you got to take stuff with a grain of salt, you know.
Definitely.
Because I'll fall into that trap too, where I'm like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, look at all these people doing all this awesome shit. What have I done? I haven't done shit, dude. I haven't done anything. Damn, I suck, man. Like, you know, this and that, and like, it can be a real source of like negativity or depression or insecurity for a lot of people.
When you start comparing yourself to other people like that, 100% is.
Yeah.
And that's why, going back to self-awareness, like, you need to, because that's what I was getting at earlier when I brought up social media like that, was that it doesn't have to be a business advertising to you to buy this product. Mm-hmm. It's almost, in a sense, like society, let's call it, advertising to you that your life should be this way, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, who says? Like, do you actually have value into what they're doing? Like, I know it looks like they're having fun, but would you be having just as much fun if you were doing that thing? Like, is that something you really have value for, right?
Yeah.
Or do you just think that you do because it looks like everybody else does, right?
Yeah. So, dude, if I was doing all the things that I think I should do just off of like social media, dude, I'd be a rock star in a band.
Yes,
I'd be like a pro chef. I'd like all this stuff. I'd be a great weightlifter. I'd like 100%. All this stuff, man.
Well, let's use that, like a rock star. You know, that's something I think. You know, I played drums growing up, so like that's somewhat of a real dream to me, right?
Yeah.
But like, when I go through the realities of it, like traveling all year long, pretty much, like all the time, doing these different shows, if I'm being honest with you, I would fucking hate that. I
would hate that.
So like, just looking at somebody on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people and having, you know, what looks like the time of their life, you know, they probably love it, but maybe they don't. Maybe they do miss going home, right?
It's hard. It gets
hard.
So
it's not all the positive.
What's the dude? Did you ever watch that Katy Perry documentary?
The one on Netflix?
I think it's on Netflix.
I don't know.
But it's like,
whatever. I haven't seen it.
It follows her around. I watched it. And I love Katy Perry. Guilty pleasure here. But it follows her around, and she's on this tour, and like the first couple stops, like everybody's stoked, and like it's this awesome thing, and they're all partying, blah blah blah, and then it montages, and I don't know, she did like 30 stops, we'll say, I don't know how many it was, and by the end, like, you know, you don't know what's happening backstage. She's putting on an awesome show for everybody every time, but as the tour goes on, like things are happening in her life and whatnot, and the stress of being on the road and all that kind of stuff, and she's literally on the platform, like about to come up through the stage floor, like crying.
Oh man, see, like, that's crazy,
and
right?
then she, you know, when she hits the stage, she's like,
she has
boom,
a job
it's on.
to do, right? Yeah, exactly.
So I think even when it's something that seemingly looks like, you know, people in show business, they make stuff look effortless, but there's a lot that goes into that specifically. You know what I mean? Just like anything else, like someone who is on this like amazing vacation or is on this awesome thing, you know, how hard did they have to work
to be able
to do that?
And then, you know, even though they're taking pictures, you know, with their husband or wife at the, you know, by the blue water, and it's like very paradisey and whatever, and it looks great, but they were arguing like that night about some shit, and they almost broke up, right? Like, you don't see all that stuff, right?
You don't see all that stuff. Yeah, I think, and this is a quote that we've talked about before too. Kind of wraps into this. Is I think it was Steve Jobs, and he said something along the lines of, once you realize that the world
love this quote.
Was created by people
no smarter than
yourself.
Yeah.
How does it end?
I forget something about
you'll
like
become like
you realize that
way
you can,
more powerful.
you can do whatever.
Realize you can do anything. Look up
or life becomes a whole lot easier. Or whatever. Something.
Yeah,
like
that's what it was.
But yeah, when you realize that, like people who have quite literally the people who designed the way this world is, like even going back hundreds of years to how society is going to function.
Yeah.
Those people were definitely no smarter than, you know, people
than your
today.
Average bear.
Exactly. Like they're just people.
They're just people who had an invention or an idea or a thought, and they pursued it.
Yeah, right place, right time, right motivation, right whatever.
Yeah.
But like we could all do something of that caliber.
Right.
We could.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody has something that they can offer, or they can, do it. And that's just such an empowering thought that, like, you know, this microphone that I'm talking into, someone was just like, hey, how do I make the human voice more transparent?
It's crazy.
You know, and then they came up with this.
Well, you said Steve Jobs. Like, just think about that story.
Guy.
Think about that story of him and Steve Wozniak. And I don't know the whole story, but, you know, it goes that they started in their garage. Like, think about that.
How crazy is that?
Imagine, like, if I told you that you could start something in your garage, and I don't know how many years it'll take, 10, 20 years, you'll be a billionaire. Like, imagine that.
That's crazy.
Not only, not just about the money, not just you'll be a billionaire, but literally you will have changed the world.
Yeah. You'll give jobs
from
to
your garage.
How many, like
thousands of people?
Thousands, maybe even millions of people.
Millions of people carrying your devices, interacting with each other through those devices. The whole world is shaped by what you just did.
It's
from
crazy.
Your garage.
That is crazy.
And you had no idea that was going to happen. But like, I wouldn't believe that was possible if it didn't already happen, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It's stories like that I like to draw from, that I'm like, dude, you know what? Like, starting this podcast, I was like, you know, like, am I entertaining? One, like, do I have the ability? Like, is this gonna even mean anything or go anywhere? I'm like, you know, I don't know if it is or not, but I'm gonna fucking try.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna do something with it, because who knows? Why? You know, why not? Yeah, I would be.
You might be the next like Larry King
dude,
or Terry Gross or something.
Yeah, I would be hindering. You know, at the risk of sounding like a douche here, I would be hindering the world if I didn't try.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel
if that's what you got in you, yes.
I feel like I have something to offer. I feel like you have something to offer, and everybody else has something to offer. Why don't we just try?
Just try.
Just try.
Going back, I think the hard part for most people, even myself included, is figuring out what you think that might be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you might be wrong. You might think it's one thing, and you pursue it, and you realize it wasn't that, but it was something else, and you figured it out along the way. So even though it wasn't the thing you started with, it was still worth starting, right? Because you thought, and it led you on this path, and whatever. I think just finding where to start could be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I think I struggle with that, because I'm like, shit, I don't know, what is it that I want to, like,
Yeah.
What is it that I want to put my life into? Because when I was young, it was music. I was like, there was no possibility other than somehow I was going to be making a ton of money, entertaining a ton of people with music. I didn't know what it was going to be. Like, maybe I was in a rock band. Maybe I was, like, producing music behind the scenes or something. But I was like, that's definitely how it's going to go. I don't know why you people are worried about, like, getting jobs and stuff. I don't know why you're worried. I'm good. Well, long story short, I only went on tour around the world once.
Yeah.
And then, no, that didn't happen.
Didn't make it on tour.
So, but then, like, it was a seamless transition for me because there was, like, a year or two overlap period where it was that and CrossFit. So I was like, all right, well, now I'm gonna be an athlete, bro. It's easy.
Do that.
I'm just work hard, work out, train,
You mean I get to work out all day?
Win some competition. I'm fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. So I did, I'm 25. Chances of that happening are very slim, right? So
anything's possible.
So for me to come up with the next thing it's tough actually right now. Like, I'm trying to, like, what is that? What am I going to put all the energy I put into music, all the energy I put into CrossFit? Yeah. What do I now want to put that energy into?
I'm a firm believer, like, I think you're going through exactly what you're talking about. You're just doing your research. Yeah. Figuring out what you're doing, man.
Just doing research.
And I'm a firm believer that, like, the things that you're doing are what you're ready for. Like, the universe is going to put you in the situation and in the life that you're ready and able to handle. Yes. So if you haven't figured out exactly what it is that you want to do, or what that outlet looks like, or what that life looks like, it's probably because you're just not ready for it yet. Yeah. And you need to kind of take your punches and then, wait for your opportunity, roll with your punches, that kind of stuff. Because I'm with you, man. Like, dude, I think I've explored, like, at one point, like, I was going to own a surf shop. And then another point, I was going to be in the Olympics.
Sounds fucking
and then
cool.
They
all sound cool, dude.
Dude, all these different things. I'm like, cool. I don't know what it is that I want to do. I have things that I like, but why don't, just fucking explore it, man, and give it a shot, Yeah. And, obviously be a productive member of society in the meantime.
Yeah, you got to get by, right? You got to do something of value.
Yeah. I think that's where, look at your hobbies, look at things that, you draw happiness from and go from there. But that's another discussion too I got into a little bit is, do you think that you have things that you love to do, for example, like play music or work out or that kind of stuff. Do you think that had you become a musician, like on tour, that you would have...
I wasn't on tour.
Well, like had you become...
Okay,
had you become that. Yeah. Do you think that you would enjoy it as much as you enjoyed it when you were 9 years old, just slamming on drums in your basement? Because you add in all these extra things on top of it.
Like I was just saying, with the travel and everything. Yeah. Like, I actually probably wouldn't like that, right?
Right.
So who knows?
So that's the line that I'm kind of trying to think about too is, when do your hobbies become work and when does your work become your hobby?
Yes, that's key right there. Because, I'll tell you, I've experienced that with things that I've loved that I've turned into work. Mm-hmm. And then they became just that, work. Right? And less of a passion. Yeah. So I think I said something similar yesterday. I was talking to someone and they were asking about skydiving. They asked me if I ever would go skydiving, and I told them I have gone skydiving. Yeah. And they were like, "Whoa, crazy, right?" Because that's how I always felt about people who went skydiving before I had gone skydiving. Yeah. I'd be like, "Oh my God, you went that's crazy!
Dude, you're nuts!
You're on another level. Like, you've got it. You've got it made. You've got it figured out."
Dude's an animal, man.
Well, here's the thing. Like, before I went skydiving, like, I thought it was the thing. I don't know. I was 18. I was still, young, whatever. But for whatever reason, I think a lot of people think this too. It's like that thing that's going to change your life. Yeah. Nothing will ever be the same once you go skydiving, right? Yeah. But then I went skydiving. And honestly, like, I'm not joking. We jumped out of the plane, and, like, on the way down, I was having a thought to myself that this wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like,
because it was so built up?
It was too built up in my head, exactly. Yeah. I had too high of expectations for it, And then I was like, this is actually not as cool as I thought it was going to be. Like, still cool, not trying to say don't do it.
Not downplaying it, yeah.
But I just had it built up too high.
Yeah.
And then I was let down.
Yeah.
It's like going to see a movie that's supposed to be the summer blockbuster, and you have all those high expectations. Yeah. You're like, versus going, like, you're like, all right, what are we going to do tonight? Fuck, I don't know. Let's throw on dumbass Sharknado. Let's see what that's about. And then you love it. You're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. It's like that concept, right? Like, I just had it too hyped up in my head, and I was like,
that's what
it was a letdown.
It's just movies, like, it's rare, and along this line, it's rare, I think, that the second movie is as good as the first.
It's rare because it's built up.
Rare because it's built up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, just let me put this on there, like, I think if I went skydiving again, which I haven't, but if I did, I think I would enjoy it more because I would be like, okay.
Your mindset is a little
My
different.
mindset's more appropriate.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy how perception and mindset, that will influence even the most extreme things? Like, you jump out of a plane. And you're a freaking plane, dude. And you're like, you have a dude strapped to your back, and you're like, man, I hope the chute works. And
I hope he's not like
you might die. You are like.
I hope he didn't decide this was his last day.
Yeah. I hope this guy likes his job.
Yeah, I hope he's not like, screw the world.
Like, how do you have something of that magnitude, but your perception is like, oh, this isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, crazy,
You're
right?
literally almost like you're plunging to your freaking death,
You
dude.
can't do much
like,
more than that, right? Like, maybe you could
that's
go
about
into
as close
space,
as it gets.
right? But
that's
beyond going into space, what else can you really do?
Like, average person, we'll call it, like, that's pretty close.
Yeah, you
to as like gnarly as it gets.
Yeah, seriously.
But like, perception is such a big deal.
Big deal. Yep.
Perception is huge, and so the perception, carrying this into yourself, like, how do you perceive yourself? What's the perception and the limitations that you're putting on yourself?
Oh, that shit is so real too. Like, we don't even realize the limitations. I don't even realize the limitations I put on myself. Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. So it's just one of those things to think about, man. And I think, like, perception definitely creates reality. Whether 100%. You're skydiving out of a plane feeling like, I'm going to get my $200 back. Or, you're like, you're perceiving that you're stuck in this one way of doing things, or you're not doing enough, or whatever it is, how can you change your perception? That's a hard practice to get into, but it's very doable to just think, like, put your life on a TV screen and watch it from a different angle, and what are you doing, and what can you change, or how can you look at something in a different way?
Yep. Try to be grateful, change your perception.
Yeah.
Find the purpose.
For sure. I think that's a good question to wrap up on. You know, how can you change your perception of what you're doing, and how can you use that, new, like, open-minded look to progress yourself in a positive direction? Something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool, man. Well, thank you, Ty, for coming on.
Absolutely. Loved it.
What's your, like, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff? Website. You just opened up a new website, didn't you?
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was just it was just like a
coaching?
landing page for coaching. Yeah. That's about.me/Ty_fish FISCH. Instagram is Ty Fish, TY_FISCH, and that's it.
Cool. Works for me, man. Ty will definitely be back on the podcast. And again, if you guys want to be,
that.
Yeah, there might be a fee next time. No. But if you guys want to be on, email me, contact me. It's team.movement33@gmail.com, or go to www.movement33.com. All my information is on there also. So, cool. Thanks again, Ty, and we'll see you guys next time.